basically we've added support for the two interesting visualizations from the Google Visualization API, and those are the Annotated Timeline, which you might see on the Google Finance site, and the motion chart, which is also known as the Gapminder chart for rather complicated visualizations. So I'll show you the timeline chart first, as it's probably the easier to describe. These are using the Google Visualization APIs, so they are online only visualizations, and the license requires them to be pretty much on public-facing websites, as most of Google's free services. I don't know if there are options to pay to use them in behind a password-protected site or not, but I'm sure anything's possible with Google these days. So the annotated timeline is really just very similar to our normal line charts, except that it's specifically designed to have time as the horizontal axis. I think I won't worry about that. So the timeline chart offers the ability to zoom into a particular area and to move that zooming across. So this is particularly useful if you have data that can be, is more than just a year level. So if you had month levels and day level data, then you could get a real summary of everything at the top level view, and then you could drill down into, I'm interested in a 3-month period or a 5-day period. This data doesn't lend itself to that because it's all based on years, but you get the idea. And we've included our standard support for adding and removing categories or data series from the chart, as well as our wafer or selection as well. The annotated feature is something that we're looking into. It will probably require our metadata story to be able to say that at this particular data point I want a little note there that you can click on and you get a little sidebar up and which explain interesting points about that. Something that happened on that date that maybe you want to reflect. If this was real data, then you want to know why is there a big spike there. So you would annotate that year on, and you would then have that as information alongside the chart. And that's how it's used on the Google Finance site. This particular view also, we haven't discussed this, but this could also be, well, you could put this alongside a map and have the map animate with time alongside the line chart. Have a little ticker, I guess, go across, showing the map updating its thematic information as the chart scrolls in time. So that it's good for syncing up things, So things have happened at a particular point in time.
Do you think the map or one update would be quick enough to support that?
I know that it would be. It depends what type we use. If we use the what we're having is the feature, like I think not an actual polygon, but a circle, for example. And you'll see what I mean. You'll see that in the motion chart next. That the circle defines, its size defines one variable, and its color defines something else, and they can be changed very quickly. But that is the sort of what the direction we want to do with the timeline chart. Because on its own, like it is, it doesn't show a lot of very interesting information. It's designed to be, have extra information associated with it. So the other visualization that we added is the motion chart, also known as the Gapminder. This one is generally you can probably see the most important features. I'll just get rid of the table and the selection because they don't really affect this. The motion chart is very much its own component. It has its own set of controls, legends, and selections that are independent of SuperVIEW, and it's all encapsulated as a single visualization. And the idea of the motion chart is that you have essentially just two categories, two categorizations, and that is a category and a point in time. So in this case, the categories are the states of Australia, and the time are the years. And then alongside that you have a set of measures, which is the information that you're measuring, and you can put this information in different in different ways on the chart. So you can put one measure on the horizontal axis and another on the vertical axis, and then you could say, I want to colour the regions by, say, the account profit, for example, as a continuous field, and I want the size of it to be just the accounts. So and then you can play or scroll the information, and its position on the screen, colour and size are all related to a particular measure that defines its what it looks like. And again, this one has also got a playback feature, so you can just let it go as it scrolls across the screen. And it does it's basically interpolating the positions between the discrete year values, so that's why we have this smooth motion rather than just going jumping from one spot to another. And the other option you can have is a categorization of a category or a subcategory, I suppose. Like I've done region as an example, showing that it's basically dividing the states into their region, and that's pretty useful in the case where, and this one shows, for example, that in this database the Eastern Australian states have the largest values, which you would actually expect on a real financial database. But on other databases you might have a grouping that is spread out across the whole screen, and it actually shows that, you know, these things are maybe geographically connected, but in what you're measuring they are completely independent. So this is a very complicated, or not particularly complicated, but involved visualization. It's not something that lends itself to being apparent. It sort of requires something alongside it to explain it.
And what's driving the diameter of the circle
in this case? It's the account measure, so the number of accounts. So we've got customers and customer profit on the axes, and then the size of the account. There can be anything. You can reuse variables. I could put the customers in there as well, in which case you will see that down here very small, and then we go up there.
So it's basically a 5-dimensional visualization.
That's right.
The axes, the time, the size of the thing, and the colour of the thing. And the position.
Basically, every data point is a combination of a category, as you can see from the label here, a category and a time. And that's the only, you can't put more than 2 categorizations in or classifications in. But you can have, well, you could if you made it 3D, then you'd need the goggles and stuff.
Do you want to show the tracks? Because they're just
yes, the trails are good. So you notice I've got Queensland selected here. Oh, and these like little being able to move things around. It's all very sexy, exciting. So I have Queensland selected, and I have the trails enabled, and that means that as I move, is that going to work? I might have to go back to the beginning and do it properly. As I move Queensland through, it keeps track of where it's been and essentially draws its path across. And then back again. So yeah, it draws into the future and undraws into the past. So you know, you could add a couple more. If I were to make everything a unique colour, for example, so now that every data point has a unique colour, as you would in a line graph or a bar chart, then you could see a comparison of the movements of things across time. And this one, I'll just briefly add that this also offers a bar chart, which actually is a sorted bar chart. Really, it just shows a progression of the higher value to the lower value of the categories, depending on whatever it is you're counting, and a line chart which just maps time to categories. And these line charts, by staggering coincidence, look a lot like our ordinary line charts. You may recognise this one from being very similar to the annotated timeline that I showed previously. That's because it's actually counting the same data, which is a good way of knowing that we've got the right information in there.